They were currently all in the dining hall, though things were a bit tense, given the history. Though Brix tried to speak to Luma since they were both princesses, maybe they could explain something she'd found out earlier. She'd asked Luma what the word decaste meant, because she didn't understand that word, having not come across it before. Luma, being the warrior princess that she is, corrected her, asking if she meant the word deceased, to which the little girl nodded in response to that, saying that was it. Luma then explained that it meant no longer alive or dead. Brix's mother then spoke, telling them that's enough of that conversation, with Luma questioning why. She'd taken down her first Lormanax at her age, but Ben then reminds them that they aren't Tetramans either, and to drop the subject. Luma then realized and stopped and nodded, apologizing to them as she hadn't taken that into consideration, with Vilgax telling them that they should be mindful of where they are and whom they are speaking to. Though Garlax glared over at Vilgax in response to that statement, telling him that Luma is his soon-to-be battlemate and betrothed, though the way he said it clearly showed that there was something there meant to spite them. Brix looked at her father and asked why the computers say that Garlax is deceased but nothing else, it's all blank. Vilgax growls that she shouldn't be worrying about his private affairs at her age, while snapping the eating utensil he had in half by squeezing it, with Garlax also snapping his in half as well, glaring at Vilgax, though the poor girl didn't understand why it was so bad. Garlax yelled that that was just like him, trying to get rid of anything that doesn't fit what he wants. This surprised everyone while they stood up, telling them it was a mistake to come here. There's no way the likes of Vilgax would ever change, as he threw his chair back behind him violently. The others were stunned by Garlax, by anyone other than Ben, speaking to Vilgax in such a disrespectful manner. Vilgax did not like the way they were speaking to him, and in the same manner as Garlax, stood up, throwing his chair back, telling Garlax that he's under his home and will show him the respect he deserved, to which our team member tells the tyrant that that would be none as far as they were concerned, though Brix hid behind her mother, not understanding what's going on and why they were like that. The tyrant then tells Garlax, "Son, you better sit down if you know what's good for you," though our crew member yells out that Vilgax is no father of his and not to call him son, and that's when things click into place. From what Garlax had just said, he was the son of Vilgax, one that the tyrant hadn't mentioned and tried to pretend didn't exist, going as far as having them declared dead. Ben called out that was enough, changing into Roadblock and putting up barriers around both of them so that they couldn't keep fighting, then told the two of them that if they wanted to fight, they should take it outside. The dining table is no place to have a fight. The two glared at Roadblock, but Vilgax sighed in response, saying that they were correct about that much at least, and they should work it out somewhere else. Garlax growled fine and let them take it outside, and Ben let them leave, with Gwen apologizing to Brix and her mother about all this, though Brix wasn't able to understand, trying to work out the whole conversation in her head slowly, trying to put it all together, though Ben also apologized and left to go supervise the fight that was about to go down, with Rojo going along with Luba just because they liked a good fight. Gwen helped Brix and her mother in the dining hall for a bit, and the little girl was trying to understand, asking if that Garlax guy was supposed to be deceased, why is he still alive? Though her mother tried to find a way to explain without giving her too much information. Gwen told her that on Earth, sometimes people who are lost for super long time are declared deceased because no one could find them. But then sometimes these people will turn up alive later because they didn't actually die, they were just too hard to find. Brix's mother was thankful for the explanation Gwen gave her, as that explained it without giving her daughter too much information about the whole ongoing situation, though she'd asked why they were arguing with her father about being his son. Meanwhile, Vilgax and Garlax were about to fight in a gladiatorial area that was built after the tyrant took over, and the warlord asked if they were ready for combat. Garlax told them to cut the crap, and Ben called out that this would be a one-on-one and they would only be using their species' natural abilities. Anyone who goes against this will forfeit the fight to their opponent. The two agreed agreed to those terms, and Ben called out for them to begin, as they then began to fight against one another, though Vilgax seemed to be physically stronger from first glance. Garlax, being younger, had better speed and managed to duck and slam his fist into the gut of Vilgax before grabbing his extended arm and throwing him out off towards the center of the field, where Vilgax began to skid across the ground after touching down upon it. Reverb stated it was a nice toss while they were watching the fight. Standing, the tyrant questioned if that was the best that they had to show. If so, he was unimpressed, though Garlax told him that they were just getting started, and charged at Vilgax, who mocked him for going such an obvious tactic and broadcasting his attack so blatantly. Clearly, Tennyson didn't have time to teach him real combat. Our crew member called for him to just shut up as he drew back his arm while getting closer to Vilgax. Then began to go for a punch, as he'd scoffed at how obvious they were making it for this so-called fight, and that he still had a lot to learn, while they had jumped back slightly to avoid the oncoming punch. However, he was caught a bit off guard, as Garlax then slammed his hand into the ground and threw himself forward, using his arm to anchor himself in place, as he then slammed both of the soles of his boots into the gut of the warlord, kicking him back further, and with him already in the air and moving backwards, well, they'd been sent back into the gate mechanism to the side, which malfunctioned and shorted out, frying Vilgax with electricity in the process. Garlax then tells him that he's learned a lot more than he thinks, then told them to get up, as he'd ripped the poles off of the now shorted gate, holding them like batons, ready to continue the fight. Vilgax then tells them using their environment to their advantage even when there's not much to use. Maybe he has learned to fight after all, then charged at him ready to continue their fight.